what's up, everybody? My name is Sureshnie and welcome to #Study Sesh. This is such an awesome platform to be part of because it's brought to you compliments of Boston Broadcast, and Boston Broadcast want to help you unlock knowledge. They want to make the world that you're in just a little bit closer, a little bit more intimate, and so that you get to unpack incredible nuggets of information. We team up with your lecturers, we team up with professionals, we team up with people who are the authority on the subjects. And I'm always just so excited to catch up with my good friend Claire Jackson-Bernardo, who of course specializes in public relations. And part of public relations, Claire tells me, is building a resume, building a CV. And when you want to get into the industry, she's got the know-how and the strategy of how you can build your reputation to get into the industry. But when people say, send me your CV, and you're still a student and you've had zero experience, how on earth do you land a job and get in and build a CV that says something about, you're hired? What do I do here, Claire?
Oh, and it does sound ridiculously stressful, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a conundrum for all students.
It is.
You need a job, but then they're asking you for experience. But hey, I'm still a student. Where in life did I get the experience to do this?
Exactly. And it is something that stresses people out and ends up with people going, oh, well, let me just rather write anything. And then you get caught out later on if you just kind of randomly filled it. And the one thing is we don't realize is you've been studying for 4 years or 3 years. You're 25, you're 26. You've been on this planet for 25 years, which means you've got 25 years of experience, right? We forget that every day that we wake up, we have learned something and we have a skill and we have something to offer. The problem is we get all caught up in a CV and we've got to word it professionally and how do I make this sound like I'm really brilliant? When, as someone who's hiring a young person, our expectation isn't that you've got truckloads of experience. We don't expect you to say that you've got 10 years of experience, but we want to see that you've got skills. And we talk about soft skills, right? And soft skills like ice cream sounds all mushy and sounds like it's not like what it needs to be. But soft skills are the things that you have learned over the years. So whether it is the fact that you've done a presentation on campus and you've put a presentation together and you've now presented to a room of 50 of your peers, whether it's the fact that you have done really well in a particular assignment that focused on event management, that's a skill. Maybe you work with your parents. Now, everyone knows if you work with your parents, they are the worst bosses on the planet, right?
I know, they didn't pay me well.
Exactly. But you've got serious experience from working with them, even if you volunteer at church, if you volunteer at a shelter, if you all of those kind of things, they have given us experience. I also look at saying, well, if you were a waiter, if you worked in a shop, anything like that, those soft skills, you learned how to deal with people, you learned how to, if you were a waiter or waitress, you learned how to take orders from grumpy people with kids, people who don't, order a salad but don't want tomato and don't want lettuce. You've learned how to smile and be graceful and all of that. So we talk about them as soft skills, but actually if you word them properly and say, this is what I did, but this is what I learned from doing it. When you word that in your CV, it then comes across as, hang on a second, this is somebody who presented on campus. They can speak to a tough crowd. This is someone who spent time with old people volunteering. This gives them empathy. It shows kindness and caring. And so when we are looking at a holistic picture of a person, you might not have the actual technical experience, but I might go, hang on a second, this person would be great for a particular client that I have who needs to be nurtured, who needs to be kind of looked after a bit more. So those soft skills, the problem solving, leadership, all of that, those are skills. And if you word them nicely and showcase what you know, they come across quite nicely.
When I think about a CV or a resume, I always think that this is the example of like if somebody needed a quick impression or an elevator pitch of who I am. This is it. I'm presenting this to you. And Claire, in my life, I've done many things. I mean, I loved coloring in as a kid. I may have come first in a coloring in competition. I loved dancing as a kid. I loved DJing. And then obviously in my life, I would want to put everything that I did in primary school. I did Toastmasters. I did this. And I'm thinking, I can't put all of those things down, surely. So how do I choose what is actually relevant instead of me putting in the coloring contest? How do I pick and choose the relevance of my achievements and deciding what goes on my CV?
So this is where you have to understand what is the position that you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a position at a nursery school and you're great at colouring in and you're able to help young
Yes.
people colour in the lines, then that's a good
Yeah.
skill set. But if you're applying for a corporate position, you're not going to say that you're great at colouring in, right? So it's all
No.
about saying, what is the position that I'm applying for? What are they looking for? And you've matched up the actual job spec with what your skill set is. And then you say, okay, so they're looking for someone that can be a leader. If you were captain of a cross-country team or captain of an athletics team or rugby or football team at school, it's not relevant that you were the captain of the sports team. It's relevant that you were a captain, and that means that you were a leader. That means that you motivated people, you inspired people. It means people were willing to follow you. It shows me that your personality is the kind of personality that other people want to listen to and follow. So that is then relevant in a corporate environment, that you do have a leadership skill. Also, if you've got positive feedback from anything that you've done, whether you've put an event together and somebody has said that you did it really well, or whether you did a great assignment, that kind of feedback, again, it all goes into building this person that you are and showing you who you are as a person. Because remember, when we're reading a CV, it's this flat piece of paper with writing on it, and I want to see color. Right. So I don't necessarily want to see your colouring in skills, but I do want to see you colour it for me to make it easier for me to see who you are. So, look at any kind of positive things, look at anything that you've done and go, well, I won an award for this. It might have been something small, but my church recognized me for fundraising. And that shows the kind of person that I am. And so we tend to sometimes look at our achievements in life and think, well, it's not big enough. It's not grand enough. It's not, shiny enough. But when you break it down from a professional point of view, it is, because it shows something. It shows something about you. And that's what we're looking for.
Then how do I filter that out and then tailor make my CV for the application that I'm applying for, or the job that I'm applying for, rather?
So don't do what so many students do, and I get CVs in my inbox every single day where somebody has just literally got 10 names, sent their CV, this general, bland, generic CV, and said, hi, I'm looking for a job. Please see my CV attached, right? If you do that, I hate to say it, I just delete it straight away. I don't even open it. I'm not interested, because it shows me that you're looking for a job. Any job will do, as opposed to you're looking for a career and you're looking to work with me and for me. So
that's a good point.
What I say is, take the job spec that they've put on LinkedIn or that you found with any of the job sites that you're looking for. Look at the job spec and look at your CV and go, well, if someone was sitting with a highlighter and going, this is what I want, here it is. This is what I want, here it is. Can they draw the link between those two? And write your CV in answer to the question which they're asking, which is, are you good enough for this job? And basically your CV needs to be personalized to that organization. That also means that you've got to do a lot of research before you just take your CV and send it through. You've got to look at some of the awards that an organization has won. You've got to look at who their CEO is, their advertising campaigns, their marketing, look at who works for them, look at their products and their services. And then you can personalize your CV with little nuggets in it or little Easter eggs about, look, I'm able to do research because I've put in that, like your award-winning company, I too have, and so it shows me two things. It shows me, number one, that you put time into putting the CV together, and it also shows me that you're able to do research because you've put research in your CV to send it to me.
This might be one of the most important study sessions we've ever had, and I'm so excited to be sitting down with Claire Jackson Bernardo and unpacking this for you. I want to touch on this because I think, again, it comes back to the conundrum that many students face, this question of experience. You want to land a job in, let's use public relations, obviously, as the example. You want to work in public relations, you want to be a PR practitioner, but they're asking you for experience. But now you haven't had experience because you've just learned about the subject. And how do you put that? Because how do you emphasize then the relevant education and training? Because that's what they're going to ask you. It's not to mask that you don't have experience, but surely you have to explain what you may have studied to get you in. Can that help you?
Absolutely. So when you put on your CV that you've got a diploma in media practices, consider
Mhm.
someone who doesn't know about Boston Media House. Consider someone who doesn't know the degrees and the diplomas that are out there. What does a diploma in media practices mean? Well, what did you study? What subjects did you do? You might have majored in public relations, but in your journey to get to third year, you have studied many subjects. And when you studied those subjects, you learned things. So in journalism, you learned how to write articles. You learned the importance of
Mhm.
research. You learned the importance of neutrality and opinion-free writing. In marketing, you learned about, product price placement, or all the important P's. You might have done advertising. Maybe you did a bit of television and television production. So when you put your CV together, remember every subject that you did, because you studied this amazing diploma at Boston, you actually did things. So you put a preset 7-step plan together. You had to write articles. You had to put marketing campaigns together. You actually have experience in the assignments that you did. And so look at it from an outsider perspective and don't tell me what subjects you did, but tell me what you learned doing that subject. So if I
Wow.
did marketing, what were the course modules that were in marketing? And then say, in this particular module, I enjoyed this. I loved looking into target markets and segmentation, and I really enjoyed this particular part of it. When you look at public relations, and I'll always fall back on it because it is my baby, but I look at
Mhm.
everything that first, second, and third year students have done. They've learned how to write media releases. They've learned how to put proposals together, sponsorship request documents, event plans. All of a sudden, if you just say you studied strategic communications versus you studied strategic comms and you learned how to do the following, now someone reads your CV and goes, wow, in 3 years, you managed to do all of this. This is something that you can start with me and do on Monday if you know how to put media lists and do research. So
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
about
I,
taking that
yeah.
diploma and opening it up and showing people inside the diploma and all the different subjects that you did and everything that you learned in those subjects.
That's phenomenal. I actually never thought about it like that. I never thought about you go to campus, you study something, but you're actually gaining the experience already and you're working through it. This is the experience. This is how you do it. And then it brings me to when you are at campus, chances are you're going to work on a massive project together. Your lecturer might say, hey, we've got this opportunity. We're helping out a campaign somewhere. They're looking for students. I remember volunteering for all sorts of things. A local TV production, an international TV production, actually came into our campus, and I was studying journalism at the time. And they're looking for students to assist in the audition process for potential presenters. And the lecturer said, "Hey, listen, you guys are all working in journalism. This is a great opportunity to write an article, but we also need kids to work on a Saturday. Come and help us." And not realizing that, oh my soul, I helped choose, be part of the process where a famous TV person was selected for, an international TV show, but we had to do all the little running around, welcoming guests. That could be something that I could put onto my resume or my CV, right?
Absolutely. But the key is you've got to be on campus to get those opportunities. And this is where I've got to
Yes.
get just a little dig in about if, 80% of success is showing up. And so if you're on campus, if you are walking into class and greeting your lecturers, introducing yourself to them, if you're asking questions during class, if you are going to them after class and saying, just want to break down something that you said, just want to ask you a question, you are then networking, right? You're not being,
Yeah,
somebody who's sucking up to the lecturer. You are
I know.
networking with one of
Yeah.
the most connected people on campus. So if then I am looking for interns, if I'm looking for people, I'm going to remember the people that I've met on campus. I'm going to remember the people that put their hands up and asked me difficult questions. I'm going to remember the person that kind of followed me around on campus all the time. And so there are, and this is why it's so important to show up, because there are so many opportunities within the professions on our campus, with our lecturers, with everybody on campus. But you've got to be there, you've got to be in front of them, you've got to be talking to them. And that helps you build your professional network. And I love it when students stay behind and want to talk and want to chat, because they are networking with me as much as I'm networking with them. And it is about establishing those connections. And then you will be able to pick up and say, listen, do you know of any jobs that are available? Or can I send you my CV? And so, use your lecturers because that's what we're there for. That's what we want. We want to share and pass on knowledge and get you into the industry.
Oh, I love it. We're unlocking knowledge, but also we're teaching you the power of being proactive and where it could land you next. We're talking about CVs, how to prepare yourself, future-proof, how to get yourself job ready. Your CV is, the impression that you're going to give your future manager one day. And all they have is a piece of paper to determine this is the kind of person I'd love to have in my team. And then sometimes when you're writing, I've had to rewrite a CV because I moved over to a brand new country and I had to reintroduce myself. And then I'm like, what do I put? And then I thought of putting, should I say that I worked at radio? Should I say that I won this award? Or would that be relevant in a market like America? Would they really care that, I did this in the movies or whatever it is? It's about sifting the right things. And I actually engaged with somebody who is a professional CV writer. And she said to me, Sush, considering the market that you want to go into, considering the field that you're interested in, you come with all of this experience. Let's tell you what you put in and what you put out. And all the things, I went in with a 3-page solid CV and she was like, no, not relevant. No, not going to help you. And I was like, what are you doing? And it's finding the right people who look at CVs and looking at getting an opinion from somebody else, getting feedback and guidance. Claire, what are your thoughts on that? Seeking knowledge from people who do this all the time.
Remember, your CV is in essence the biggest sales pitch of your life, right? That's going to land in someone's inbox. And that CV has the power to completely change the trajectory of your life. So you want to make sure that this document is a thing of absolute beauty. And so we're not going to rush our CVs. We're not going to throw them together. We're not going to lastminute.com them. A CV is something that you grow and cultivate over many, many years. Every module that you finish, anything that you've done, you're adding to it. It's this evolving document, this evolving sales pitch of who you are. And so it would make sense then that you get feedback and input from people in the industry about what's in your CV. On campus, you've got peers, you've got third-year students, you've got lecturers, you've got academic managers. Ask them to have a look at your CV. Give me any ideas. Have you got any feedback? How can I word this? How can I add this? Because if you're not willing to commit to spending time on putting this document together, unfortunately, we're going to see that when we read it. Your CV is not something that you throw together and that you send out and pray that someone's going to read. It is literally this representation of who you are. That's why I always recommend that you should walk around with a CV with you, because you don't know who you might get stuck in an elevator with. You don't know who you might see at a restaurant while you're grabbing a quick cup of coffee. And so the CV is literally this walking embodiment of who you are. And so it would make sense then that you are constantly asking people for feedback on it, for ideas. What should I add? What am I missing? Do I need a more personal touch? Do you know that this is me based on the person that you've met? And make your CV a collaboration of people that you spend time with, of your mentors, of senior people. Because at the end of the day, if that doesn't land you a job, you've got to get in, and that's going to get you in the door.
Yeah. That brings me to our next topic, which we're going to unpack next. I'm going to give you the preamble to this. How people may have lied on their CV. Hey, I know how to drive a really big truck. Meanwhile, you've never even got a license. people put a lot of, inflamed things in a CV because they're so desperately looking for a job. And many people that we know in the public arena, especially, given the stories that we've seen, we're like, so and so landed a very high ranking position. We went back and looked at their resume. Turns out they lied. Being honest and authentic. This is how you build, first of all, not only your brand reputation, you're building your future relations with an organization. If you say on your CV, I know how to operate a heavy duty machine, I really hope you know how to operate a heavy duty machine and not in a simulation kind of world, that you really have had experience and you've touched and felt. Or you say things like, I am an expert in Photoshop. And they say, okay, fantastic. Here's the whole suite. Go for it. We expect some kind of, and then you're Googling how to use that. And I think, Claire, you will know it's so important. Just be honest. Just be absolutely honest and truthful, because part of an HR person's job is to go and investigate, to go and see, okay, does this person's resume match up with the certificates they've presented? Is this an authentic place that they studied at? What are your thoughts on being honest and genuine in your CV?
Well, this is the sad part about this Insta world that we live in, where we've created this environment where we think that we have to be so much more, and we have to have more, and we have to shine more, and we have to have more diplomas and more degrees and more and more and more. And so we're competing with this world that's out there, which doesn't really exist. And so what happens is as employees and people looking to hire young people, we can see that, right? We know that you don't have this experience. You haven't been on the planet long enough to be able to do this or do that. But what it means is that when you lie in your CV, and not even lying, let's just say if you embellish, if you're just creative with words, what happens is there is a way to hold that to account. So let's say you've put this amazing CV together where you say all these amazing things which you think people are looking for. And I go, all right, come in, let's meet you. And you sit down in front of me and you've told me that you're a brilliant writer and that you're creative and that you can come up with a press release and a media list. What happens if I say, put your phone to the left, here's a pen, here's a piece of paper, write me a media release on this, or put a media list together for me. And you've said that you're an expert in and that you are knowledgeable in. And now all of a sudden when the chips are down, you can't do it. And that's why more and more we're checking on what you say in your CVs, because it's so easy and the temptation is so real to amplify your skill sets and to show that you are something that you're not. But there are ways to check and balance. And obviously in the society that we live in at the moment, we check everything. You're not going to get in the front door. The problem is if you are willing in your CV to be more colorful with the truth, what does that say about you as a person? And now all of a sudden I might go, well, this person's a hell of a colorful in their writing. They really do make things a lot bigger than they are. Can I trust them? And so we might just put that CV aside because it sounds too good to be true. And we do live in the world where if it sounds too good to be true, it is, right? So it's just not worth your while to do it. Rather go in saying, this is who I am, than have to live up to something that you're not. And then you're constantly having to kind of prove something that you can't do, which if you'd just been honest at the beginning, it would have got you out of trouble.
Yeah, I know when they say create compelling content, please don't take that literally. You can't tell everybody, oh, I actually am a award-winning director. Meanwhile, you've just been making little YouTube shorts, Let's be honest about it. Can I also touch on AI and how to use it responsibly? Because I think I've seen people write articles. I've been invited to write opinion pieces, and my child currently, at school, the lecturers and the teachers actually use apps to read through any of their poems and submissions that they make in their essays to make sure that kids are not leaning on AI or ChatGPT, etc. And yes, while it's really nice to have ChatGPT, flower it up a little bit, like you just said, make it look bigger or use, perhaps better constructive sentences. I think it's also, you have to be very careful how you use AI.
Well, my question is this, is if you are willing to use AI on the most important sales document of your life, then when else are you willing to do it? And if you can't be honest and authentic about who you are and what you can do in our first communication, in the first thing that lands on my desk that's telling me about you, then kind of my question is, well, if you needed AI to help you tell you to me, then why do I need you basically? Like, if you can't tell your own story and if you have to get artificial intelligence to tell your story, then I don't really need you because I can just get artificial intelligence to do it for me. So you've got to be so
Mm-hmm.
careful. Like, use AI responsibly, use it for trends analysis, use it to find out what people are talking about, what's current. Maybe you can use it to correct your language a little bit. But
Yeah.
again, if you overcorrect it, if it's too perfect, if it doesn't sound local, if it doesn't sound South African, then you're going to show it off that it is AI. So I would rather have a real CV land on my desk with maybe the odd typo or the odd grammatical error than this
Yeah.
perfect robotic piece of information that's basically telling me that you're a robot because AI is perfect, right? Robots are perfect. We train them to be that way. And I don't want perfect people working for me, right? I want people
Yeah.
who've got flaws and learnings and who've made mistakes and who are picking themselves up and trying again. And so we want to employ people, and you've got to be very aware of that when you use AI. Because if a robot can do it, then why do I need you to do it? And you've got to take that
Yes.
into consideration all the time.
Claire, I can't reiterate this enough about how imperative the session or how important the session has been. And let me tell you, as somebody in my industry who's, always looking for the next step, always thinking about innovating her career, writing a CV doesn't end at 20 years old. Trust me, when you are moving in the industry and you're finding new opportunities, you never know and you need to update that CV. I think that's so important because in a space of 1 year, when you maybe join as an intern, you've now picked up brand new skills. Remember to touch up your CV, add those skills in, because in the next 3 years, when you then move to the next position, you may have been promoted, you may have gone to 3 more conferences and webinars. Heck, your title may have changed. And I think just always remember to refresh and then keep going with that. And these strategies have been discussed here today with Claire. Claire, your thoughts on that, and what advice then do you give students as they prepare to send out their very first CVs?
Well, I'm going to put a bit of a spanner in the works and say you need more than one CV
Yeah,
because
it's
remember, there
true.
are multiple positions that you can be applying for. So you might have to then have 4 or 5 tailor-made CVs for specific positions. So let's say you want to go into corporate social responsibility. Your CV for that is going to be very different if you want to work for a charitable organization to a CV if you want to go in for an eventing or event planning position. So just like you are continuously evolving, as you find new interests, new likes, new experiences, new things that you add to your CV, you might start to see a bit of divergence in terms of, well, hang on a second, there are 3 or 4 jobs that I could be applying for. There are 3 or 4 different fields within my specialization that I want to apply for. So let me now take my CV and break it down. So you have specific CVs for specific positions. And then it's continually updating them, as you said. It's continually
Yeah.
making sure that you are aware. I learned something today. I must add that to my CV. All of the, I mean, I just clicked right now that I haven't updated my CV with the fact that I'm doing Boston broadcasts with you guys, right? That's
Me
something.
too.
Exactly. So every day you have to go back and look at it because you don't know who you're going to bump in tomorrow. And if you bump into someone tomorrow who says, do you have a CV? You need to go, all right, CV 1, 2, or 3. Let me quickly put today's date on it and let me send it. Because if someone asks you for a CV and it takes you 3 or 4 days to get it to them, then that opportunity might be lost. So keep working on it. It's part of everyday life. At the end of every week, just like you back up your phone and you back up your WhatsApps, at the end of every month, update your CV, make sure it's relevant, make sure it's current, and just everybody, when you send that CV out, I'm wishing you all the best of luck. And I know it's a stressful
Yeah.
time, but we've given you so many great little bits of information today, and hopefully everyone can use them and really make those CVs just this really hot piece of sales information.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Get yourself out there, get onto that piece of paper, start with your name, and please make sure that a little tip that I would give you is that if you want to work in a specific brand or the organization, try and research who the person is instead of saying to whom it may concern. Sometimes it goes into a little big box somewhere and they're like, oh, it wasn't addressed to me. If you could find the name of somebody and make it a bit more personable on that cover letter, that is actually a game changer, because it shows me that you've taken time, you've shown your interest, you've shown that you've done some research about the company and also know where you're applying to.
Do not say dear sir stroke madam. It's
Yes.
a pet hate of mine, right? So I look at it and go, well, if you didn't spend enough time to find out if I am a sir stroke madam, then it shows me that you didn't even research who the person was that you were sending the CV to.
Yeah.
So just those personal touches, finding out who the right person is at the right department, making sure it's personalized, spell their names properly, spell the organization's names properly. Remember, this poor person might have 50 to 100 CVs on their desk. What's going to make you stand out and make you shine?
Well, I think being a Boston media student is going to help you shine, first of all, because you are in the company of the most excellent lecturers, the lecturers who are giving you all of these nuggets of information to help you unlock everything in this beautiful world. And Claire, thank you so much for, I walk away now even more learned. Thank you for reminding me to add Boston Broadcast to my CV. I'm going to absolutely do that. But thank you so much for giving us this wonderful roadmap in a thing that really is a conundrum for so many of us. It's one of the stumbling blocks when I know I have to write a CV, the panic sets in. So thank you so much for making this so easy and light. And I do hope, students, you have a moment to go back to this episode on YouTube. Take your time, take the notes that Claire has given us. And then if you do see her on campus, please go say hi, introduce yourself, and then say, hey, Claire, you know what, I love this, could you teach me more? And that's the beauty of the Boston media lecturers here as well. They're just always happy to learn. Claire, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much, and thank you for enlightening and making our world a bright place.